Greets peeps, this is Tony the Heart of France. We're in a situation where we're quite far behind on military tech. We've been letting our techs tank before we do this big technology upgrade, but we got called into a defensive war against Russia by Denmark, and the Russians have now started besieging one of my places, and I don't like that much. So I'm going to do this upgrade now. I would have liked to have waited a little while longer because we're not too far away from being able to pay this off, another 1,000 ducats, and we would have been able to embrace this as well as this. At the moment we only get a how long has this been going? We get negative 10% for not having this this institution, but we get negative 50 from not having this institution. So we're going to embrace this, and our technology cost will drop massively. If you remember, last time this was 880, but now this is 776 because of our spying that we've been doing. We've managed to get some decent totals for once without getting caught. They got caught. The spies got caught at least once each. No, twice each, I'd say. The reason that what's prompted this is this war, but I've also lost my spy advisor. He just died, so we won't be able to spy as effectively, meaning it's much more likely these guys will get caught. 10% and 13% now, 14% now. So it's the right time to do it. We also need to tech up our military. So the process is, we've got our totals there. If we embrace this for $31, we can see that those are going to disappear if we don't use them immediately. At the tick of the month, or possibly even the tick of the day, those points will disappear, so we're going to now spend them on technology. If you recall, 880 in the last video became 771 and has now become 476 because we got rid of that that 50% penalty. We've still got an 8% penalty for the the institutions spawn at or around the dates they say. Oh, it didn't say. Normally that spawns at 1600. I think it spawned a little bit later. That's why it spawned 2 years later, because it requires various things to spawn. If we have a look here, this won't spawn until at least 1650, and then some other things must happen. We've got a good chance of getting that because we've got a lot of manufactories, but we'll go to that shortly. We can't embrace this one because it's too expensive for us. It would be nice to get rid of that 8% tech penalty, but that's okay. It's a lot of money to spend for a minimal gain. Right, so we're able to... Sorry, I should say, now we can see that our spy network in Württemberg are the only people who have got a tech advantage over us in admin. So it's quite minimal. I was spying on them. That spy got caught, so I moved the spy to Alsace, and yeah, that's just a hangover 0.9 bonus. Down here though, we've got a good spy network in Spain, reasonable, yeah, a good one. It gives us negative 9.6 to the cost, and for our military tech we get negative 4%. So we can do a good tech upgrade here across the board. 600 points for, so we're actually exactly what the base cost is when all of our multipliers are added together. So we can spend 600 admin and get that upgraded. Now we can see that none of our spy networks have more than levels. None of our spy networks have level 17 admin tech because there's no spy bonus. We can do the Diplo one. 476, that's excellent. I like paying that little. And we can do another one, which is going to cost us 501. Wow, we're close to getting 3 from one upgrade. Excellent. Got a whole bunch of new ships, so we'll be upgrading our navy very soon. And we've still got Great Britain are still ahead of us. -4, I think that means they're possibly 2 ahead of us. So our spy network of 41 is giving us a -4% bonus. I would have guessed it to be a -4.1 bonus, but that's cool. Alright, and we had just enough to do that one. So we're now yeah, we're still behind time. We're 2 years behind time on that, 1 year behind time on that. What about this one? 522. Alright, that upgrades our infantry, but we're not going to do that yet because we're going to be... Actually, there's no reason why not. We're waiting for our morale to come back up. I only noticed this siege now, and that's what prompted this whole decision. Our morale is coming up from almost 0, so it makes sense to upgrade our troops and come up from actual 0. Oops, wrong one. The free shooter caracol. We have some good... Yeah, we might go for... We've got good shock generals, but we've got better fire generals. So it makes sense to for them to be stronger in the thing that our generals are good at. So we'll go Mauritian infantry. And as you can see here, I'm not certain if I've been through this before. There's sorry, show outdated ones. So there's the current tech level that we had was 12. I think we had the free shooter infantry, so they had far less morale than we're going to have. They have similar, well, the same amount of, the same grand total of shock, but we have, actually they're the same there as well. No, we're going to have 1 extra pip of fire damage in the offense phase, so that's cool. That's upgraded, but our morale has gone up as well, as have our tactics. So that's going to help us greatly against the Russians, who are at tech level 17, if I recall. Yeah, they're at 17, so I am kind of tempted to start spying on them to steal their tech, because we're only at 15. It's a bit of a dicey one, but hey, they've gone down a certain path of their tech tree, not tech tree, their development. They've focused more heavily on military, while we've focused across the board. If we have a look at their ideas, they've got quantity ideas as well, so they get a much bigger army, but it's not quite as tough. It doesn't get the bonuses that we do, I should say. Quantity is their only... Yeah, that makes sense. The reason that they're behind in these techs is because they've been spending their monarch points developing economic ideas, trade ideas, and expansion ideas, as opposed to us, who have gone for 2 military techs. That's why we're behind in technology, but we've got some advantages that they don't have, such as a 10% bonus to our combat ability and increasing yearly army tradition. So our army tradition is at a respectable 42 for a nation that's been forced to be at peace. Your army tradition and your naval tradition reduce each year. If you're not at war, you need to be doing sieging, you need to be doing land combat. As it actually explains in that in the blurb there. But because we've got that quality education, we've got lots of fully maintained forts, we're keeping that nice and high. So that was our, that was the, that was messing with institutions and with monarch point banking and spying. I think that explains reasonably well what the whole process is about. We will, I'm now tempted to, I don't think I'm getting a bonus from any of my spying on any of my neighbours. No, I'm not. I do still get an advantage there for spying on Britain, and I do still get an advantage there for spying on Britain. What I'm tempted to do is I'll keep that going, and actually I've lost some claims in Britain. At one point in Britain I'd claimed that, and that, which was very expensive. 20, 25, 45, 30, 55, 35, 90, 40, 130, and 45, 175. So I'd spent 175 of spy network to get all of those claims. Obviously some of them still exist, but they're slowly disappearing over time. They'll only last 20 years. So I'm going to keep that spy network in place to keep that to eventually reclaim those, because I'm going to be taking those at some point in the future. Even though my focus should be over here, that's okay. Spain, however, don't give me any advantages because they are behind in tech. They're now the same as us, so we don't get any advantages from spying on them. What we're going to do instead is, I could fabricate some claims, but I'm more tempted to do some supporting of rebels. When you support rebels, you are able to cause trouble in their islands, and when you do, they become your ally. If you support them, you will be able to support them during their uprising, and if they gain power, they become your ally. So I'm tempted to I usually prefer doing independence movements, but neither of those independence. Sorry, each of these icons means a different thing. Those are noble rebels. They want to put a new king in place. Those are separatists. They want to take over their own area, and if we help them do that, they become our ally. But neither of those are good enough. I don't care about Malta or about Sardinia. And particularists and peasants, they're helpful. They'll cost a lot of money, but yeah, it's kind of tricky. While they're still rebels, they don't help us. If they take over and break the country, then they do. So we have to avoid killing the Spanish particularist troops. It's a hard call. They're really well, as you can see when you scroll over them, no, it doesn't say. The reason they cost so much is because there's so many of them, and they're so close to rebelling, but that's kind of worth it. That would destroy Spain, and that would be quite funny to me. However, Castilian nobles want to put a new person on the throne, and that's better for me. Yeah, that's better for me in the long term, because then I can make Spain my ally after I take some land back from them during the war that we go to help them. So we'll go for that. And it's the mechanics slightly frustrating. They're 80% towards an uprising though, so that means that will happen soon. the reason they're 80% towards an uprising is because they've got corruption going on. No, that's not true. I thought corruption. No, they've got war exhaustion. They're at war with. They attacked Gascony, and Gascony have had the ally. Gascony had allies of Great Britain, Lithuania, and the Papal States. So they're actually getting quite badly. They're losing the Spanish Peninsula the Italian Peninsula quite badly, and they've even had that fort taken and that fort taken. It looks like they're resieging that fort. They are, but not with a big army. We could just trounce these guys when these rebels rise, but we have to kind of protect the rebels at the same time as avoiding killing the rebels, because the rebels are rebels. It's a weird mechanic. But oh, I should have mentioned there was a weird thing that it said 0.8 when it said their rebellion strength. That means that they're it's quite tricky to explain without being able to look at it, but it just means they're very close to rebelling. There's a siege going on there as well. Okay, there's a larger English army besieging that fort. Then there is the Spanish army relieving that siege. If those two armies combined, maybe they could fight off the British. But regardless, we're going to jump in on Spain very soon once these rebels spawn. So, we've had a look at the spying mechanic and how it impacts our own research. We've looked at the institution upgrades, and we've talked about rebellions out of the blue, because that's the way things happen sometimes. That will be us for the moment. Thanks for joining us. When these rebels spawn, we'll come back. When this morale comes on, I'll go take these Russians out. But I don't really mind what happens in this war. They just want to take some territory off Sweden. I don't care. So we'll see how we go. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon.